the spring of 1967, the campus radio station at what was then called Eastern Washington State College began to give some odd reports nearly every night. The residents of George Pierce Hall, one of the dorms, were reporting that they were seeing UFOs. The weird thing was that no one outside of the dorm was seeing any of the same UFOs. Toward the end of that 2-week span, after listening to about a half hour of those reports one evening, I threw my last UFO out the window and called it a night. Went to bed. Just a Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, I love practical jokes. I love them enough that they're probably one of my defining personality characters. Practical jokes are good, to me at least, only under one circumstance though. They have to cause a maximum of fuss, but not actually harm anybody or damage anything. The reason for that is obvious. If you're playing practical jokes, you do not want to be punched in the face at the end of it. Thus far, that's worked out okay. I really liked the UFO practical joke because it was based on a couple of subtle things I had noticed. George Pierce Hall is a cylinder, but the outside walls are composed of straight panels that form a sort of a zigzag, corrugated pattern. Lightweight things tossed out the window tend to spiral around the building as opposed to drop straight down. This is such a lightweight object. Also, our eyes and our brains play tricks on us. If you were looking out a window and saw this fly by, its shape is instantly familiar as a UFO. But all of us know that UFOs are large enough to contain alien beings. So this can't be just 6 inches away from the window going by. It must be a large object that's farther away. And that's exactly what everybody thought. I've been playing practical jokes on people since I was a little kid. I can't even remember how young I must have been, but it had to be in elementary school. The other side of the coin is that if you play practical jokes on people, you have to expect that they will be played on you, and they have been all of those years as well. It's just part of the trade-off of the practical joke lifestyle. I like practical jokes that are spur of the moment. In 1968, when my college debate partner and I were in Los Angeles International Airport waiting to catch a flight back home after being butchered at a tournament at USC, I noticed a house phone on the wall. We were standing across the terminal from the United Airlines passenger check-in area, so I picked up the phone and had Paul McCartney page to the United Airlines check-in. This was 1968. Los Angeles could have happened. In fact, at least 500 people thought it was happening for the terminal. So many of them, in fact, that the airport cops with nightsticks and helmets showed up to control the plane. That's when Alex and I decided that we needed to go somewhere else. I think practical jokes are funny because of their unexpectedness and the difference between what has happened to the victim and a proper response. For example, if I light your car on fire, that in a sense is a practical joke, but it's not likely to amuse you very much. On the other hand, if I stuff a potato up your car's exhaust pipe, that's also a practical joke. It'll cause a fuss because your car wants to breathe out just as it's breathing in, and the potato won't allow that. But it doesn't really hurt anything unless your car's old enough to blow the muffler off of, which may have happened to someone I did that to. But in any event, the contrast, I think, is what makes practical jokes funny. I've long thought that practical jokes that other people played with my connivance were good too, because that allowed me to have deniability in them. For example, back when I was teaching school, one year in first period, there was a guy who was the school's heavyweight wrestler, big, tough, macho-looking guy. He'd doze off 2 or 3 times a week in my first period class. And he usually did so with his hands draped across the desk and laying on his head on the desk, drooling a little bit, snoring sometimes too. One day, a couple of girls asked if it would be okay to paint his fingernails. I said, sure, he's not going to object to it, and they did. They painted his fingernails day-glow neon pink. There was plenty of time for them to dry as they hung up in front of the desk, and he apparently didn't realize what had happened until about halfway through his next class when he caught sight of the nails and freaked out. I thought that was an ideal practice. Leon may not remember this, but one day in my first year of teaching, I put a notice in the morning bulletin at Eastmont High School canceling the apple blossom practice parade. Now you might be thinking, what practice parade? There wasn't one. That wasn't the point. I canceled it. And it caused a big enough stir that Leon's cohort in the music department, Mr. Ed Sand, came to ask me what I had done. I canceled the practice parade. You don't have authority to do that. I said, sure I do. I made up the parade. I can cancel it. Ed was humor deficient, apparently.
Do I get a chance to respond?
Yeah. Yeah, band guys take parades pretty seriously.
Well, probably what happened is we probably had
Later,
300
later.
practicing that he
Practical jokes have been part of my life for many years, and I think they'll continue to be so. Now, this may not be the standard type of icebreaker, but one of the goals of the speech is to allow you to learn something about the speaker, and that's what I've done.